Welcome to the programme. We start with the remarkable rise to power of Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko in Senegal. Both men were in prison just days before the election last month, and Sonko had been barred from running for office at all. Faye then ran in his place, and after he stormed to victory, becoming the country's youngest ever president, Faye appointed Sonko as his prime minister. It is then a potential sea change in Senegalese politics, and the pair are promising to make significant changes in the country. Lisa Kamenoff has this.
It's his first address to the country, and Senegal's new president is already pledging systemic change following years of deadly turmoil. Among Bassirou Diomaye Faye's priorities is lowering the cost of living for the Senegalese.
The issue of the cost of living is of particular concern to me and has my full attention. In the coming days, strong measures will be taken in this direction.
The left-wing pan-Africanist outlined the rest of his agenda for the country, which includes fighting corruption, reforming the justice system and bringing national reconciliation. One of Faye's first policy moves will be to conduct an audit of the oil, gas and mining sectors and review the rules of exploitation of offshore oil and gas by foreign companies, with Senegal's first offshore oil development due to start production in mid-2024.
The exploitation of natural resources, which according to the constitution belong to the people, will receive particular attention from my government.
Bassirou Diomaye Faye will share responsibilities with his mentor Ousmane Sonko as Prime Minister, who has promised what he calls a government that has cut ties with the past and is made up of people who will work for the people.
And I'm very pleased now to welcome to the programme Mamadou Diouf. He's a professor of African Studies at Columbia University. He joins me live on the programme now from there. Hello to you, sir. Thank you very much for making the time to talk to us. I'd like to ask you, first of all, do you see this truly as the start of a new era in Senegal?
Thank you for having me. I think it's more than a new era. It's a moment where the group which is arriving to power had made strong engagement to actually destroy what they call the old system. So what they are offering to the Senegalese population, the youth in particular, is the dream of building something new, something which is a rupture with the past.
It sounds like you're saying that they are populist figures. Is that a fair description? Are they populist? Are they anti-establishment? How should we understand what they represent?
I think they are anti-establishment, definitely. They are not populists because their agenda is a clear agenda which is focusing on, as I was saying, not only destroying the old system, which has existed since 1960 and even before, because the kind of the old colonial state had its function. But they have been engaged in fighting corruption, which is an important element, in promoting employment for the youth, and in making sure that they are absolutely able to define, if you want, a territory of common good, which is rationally managed, controlled, where everything will be accounted for.
How radical do you think they'll actually be, though, in power? Because there are lots of politicians who say they want to create systemic change in the country when they're campaigning, and then once they get power themselves, not quite so much. Do you see it in that way, or do you think really we will see radical shifts? If so, in what way?
I think we will see a radical shift for one reason. They will have to actually respond to the expectation of the people who have voted for them. And I think that what has happened these last 2 to 3 years in Senegal is a kind of new consciousness about citizens responsibility and rights. And it's the combining of those two, responsibility and rights, which will, I think, force them to open up the Senegalese public space, promote discussion, and make sure that people will stick to an agenda and a program which is, the majority agenda and program, and that majority is the youth. They will have no other choice but deal with the problem and the terrible problem they are facing.
What about in terms of foreign policy? What do you think this election will mean for Senegal's relations with France?
I think it will change the relationship with France has. You have noticed it. This space of international relation, in particular between France and its former colonies, have been changing. And Senegal will adjust to the new situation. And the new situation is not only domestic, but it's also regional. It's about economic relations, is about political relation, is about the effect of French migration policy on the countries of the region, in particular the Sahel. So what Senegal is doing and is forced to do is adjusting to this new situation, but the approach is different. It will be, I think, less violent, but it will be also firm. And issues of partnership will be revisited.
We invited you on the programme today to talk about this new political moment in Senegal, but as we've been on air, a story's been breaking today, and there's been some rather remarkable language from the French presidency concerning the genocide in Rwanda. This coming in just within the last hour or so, President Macron saying, and I quote, "France could have stopped the Rwandan genocide back in 1994, but did not have the will to do so." What do you make of that language?
I think it's a language of truth because, the policy, historical, ethnological research have shown that actually France has played a negative role and has not stopped actually the genocide while in a position to do it. And it has been documented that France has actually supported the Abiyarimana regime. I'm not really fond of Macron or Macron's policy, but this time I think he has taken the right direction. He is beginning to open up something the French has firmly closed, that France has decolonized its empire and still struggling to decolonize herself.
Professor Mamadou Diouf, thank you very much indeed, sir, both for your thoughts on the political situation in Senegal and for your reaction to that story we're watching, Macron's comments there on Rwanda. We appreciate your thoughts on both. Thank you.
Thank you.